Blackfire is an application profiler. It means that this is a specific tool, which gives you the opportunity to observe the behavior of your application. Usually, it is used for performance tests, but in a more general way, it gives you the opportunity to really to actually see how your code is behaving, like for example on the stress, the traffic stress, or what might go wrong in your application. And why it is important regarding performance is because we know that solving issues, especially performance issues in late in the process, like in production, is much more expensive than in staging or development. So it's critical for any development team to solve these kind of issues. But if you want to solve these issues, you need then to know exactly what we're talking about. You know to spot them beforehand, before sending them to production or sending your application to staging. And for that, Blackfire comes in. It's an online profiler, as I already said. It's working with PHP as well as Python and Go. And it supports on-demand profiling. That's I'm going to show a bit just after, but also automated profiling. So this is perfectly adapted for development workflows and fits with the CircleCI platform. One of the key features of Blackfire is that there is absolutely no overhead on production or on whatever platform, because as it is designed to be on-demand profiling. So even if you already have what we call the probe, which gathers all the profile data enabled in your application on production, as long as an authorized user doesn't trigger any profile, there nothing happens there at the probe level. And when an authorized user triggers a profile, the overhead will only be for that user, and every other users won't be affected. We're adding automated issue detection, and also gives opportunity to deeply dive into your application code. So I like this image of having your code as blueprints of your application. But once your machine, your application is built, like if you build a car, for instance, once it's running, you cannot see exactly what's going on when it runs. And profiler like Blackfire gives you the tool, gives you the X-ray glasses that enables you to actually see what's going on exactly inside your application. And I also need to mention that we also have an application performance monitoring coming soon. We're working very hard on it, which will be complementary to the profiler. Since then, we will get a more statistical platform like does New Relic, for instance, but all with the package with profiling with the profiler as well. So enough for the presentation of Blackfire. Here I have a very small Symphony PHP application. So it's written in Symphony 4. And I'm gonna just run my server. So I'm gonna just I'm just a developer within a team of developers. We're about to deploy. We want to deploy on we want to deploy on Symphony Cloud platform. So if you do not know about Symphony Cloud, it's like a cloud platform based on Platform SH, which makes it very easy to deploy in different environments. So I won't get into details of that. So that's why I'm using the Symphony command here. So I run the local server, and what I have now is my application, which is all about Bigfoot, right? Very, very interesting. We are here tracking all the reported sightings of Bigfoot because we're hunting it down. Here, actually, we're in development mode, and I actually want to test in production environments, but locally. So let's add this app and eagle prod, because we know that all debugging tools will deeply affect performance, and we don't want to do that. So first, I'm gonna profile this homepage and see if we are good to go. For this, I'm gonna use this browser extension, which has this very nice big red button to run a profile of this web page. Actually, the profile will run 10 requests of the same page, so that we can get proper averages and proper measurements. We can see that, oh, okay, we have 406 milliseconds, 406 milliseconds. It's quite a lot. And this is split out with the I/O input-output weight and actual CPU, the computing time, and the memory and network and so on, and the SQL queries. So we're going to check what's actually going wrong here, because this is not what is expected here before sending to production. So first, I'm going to look at what we call a call graph. This call graph is actually the how your application is behaving. Each node here represents a function call, and within this function calls, all these subsequent function calls. And what's interesting with Blackfire here is that it enhances the critical path of your application. So it helps you find the nodes that are not behaving as expected. And here, the dark background that we can see here actually represents the most expensive function calls. So, okay, let's see here. For example, this one, we can actually see that it's going from doctrine library. This is not our code, so but this is triggered by our own code. This is vendor one. This is from a library that's already we're not responsible of, but we can also see that it has been called 543 times. So maybe there is something that we can actually that we can hunt down and fix, because here, if I go from bottom to the top, we can actually see that this comes from a twig length filter, which is, so we're counting the number of the number of entities somehow in this template in sightings.html.twig. So let's fix that, see what's happening here first. So sightings html.twig. All right, so we can see here that we do have a length filter here. So we are counting the comments here. Usually that's should be okay, but this is a classic N+1 issue. So going back to the controller, we can see that we are building a paginator and using a repository. I'm going quick on purpose because this is typical application code, and I won't get into much details here. But what we can see here that we are actually requesting a table named Bigfoot sighting, which is linked via doctrine to entities. So a sighting is like an article. We can see it in our here in our application, and each sighting can have many comments. So here, if we want to fix the n+1 issue, we will have to do a basic join, and so that we get the counts directly from the database. So here, how I'm going to fix it, I'm adding the join with the comments table, grouping by sighting, and adding a column here, so that we actually have the number of comments in the home page. I need to adapt a bit my templates. So we're gonna do that as well. So we're changing a little bit in order to get the comments count virtual property from our sightings, that data. Now, well, I'm gonna clear the cache and profile again. Okay. Let's profile. Right. Of course, it's a bit slow because of Zoom. Right. Remember the number we had before? It was like 400 milliseconds somehow. Now we have 161, but we want to actually compare. That's Blackfire, and Blackfire gives us the opportunity to do so. I'm going to compare one profile to the new one. And we can now see that, yes, we actually improved a lot. We fixed the n+1. Everything that is in blue here is an improvement. If we had regressions, we would have red nodes instead. Cool, refixed it. Now, maybe we have new issues. If I go there, well, if I go to the dark ones directly, we still have the PDO connections. Okay, that should be fine. Anyway, for what we need actually. Right. Now I have fixed it. Fine. But the key here would be to check to add non-regression tests, and this is what CircleCI is all about. Having a CI platform before CD, continuous deployment. Before deployment, we want to add this to add this check. So I'm gonna commit this first, and git add src and templates, and say fix n+1. Okay, but before pushing, I'm gonna write some non-regression tests. And what's very nice with Blackfire is that we have a tool, a specific DSL, domain-specific language, in order to do some tests and scenarios. What I'm gonna do is to bootstrap a file, the blackfire.yaml file, which contains this. So here, this one is very blunt. It's quite empty. I'm gonna add more some specific tests so that we can we ensure that everything is fine. Yeah, I also had a composer one that I will remove it. So you can see that in those tests, I'm running assertions on metrics. So here, well, I do not want to add too many SQL queries, and I want doctrine entities to be less than 50. How did I find that? This is important. So if I go to my Blackfire, my previous profile, I can see that my create entity here, which was called 543 times, was actually contributing to one metric. So thanks to this, I'm able to get the metric and set a test for it. So 500 is more than 500 is way too much, but we of course need at least a few. So we're setting a limit to 50, which is a bit too much as well. But let's be tolerant on this. And that's the same for SQL queries too. For like the PDO execute statements, you can see that this is part of SQL PDO queries, which is part of SQL queries and SQL metric. So here I want less than 10 SQL queries in all my web pages. So here slash dot star, so this is a regular expression. And the home page, only the home page should be less than 150 milliseconds. In my machine, it runs a bit slower, but we can, this is a development, not very powerful machine, so we can assume that the CircleCI machines and production machines will be much more powerful. The scenario here that has been generated, we're gonna keep it. We just need to visit the slash URL, the home page, and we only expect that its status code is 200. This is quite basic, and we are gonna run it with Blackfire Player, which is an open source HTTP client, which is also compatible with the Blackfire profiler. So you can use Blackfire Player for doing your scenarios without Blackfire profiler, but you can also use it to run all your sessions, all your tests on your application. So for this, I have Blackfire Player install. So Blackfire Player run. I'm giving it an endpoint. 1.8 and 8000. And I'm gonna disable the SSL verification because it's a self sign. And I'm gonna give it my Blackfire environment, which is my workshop one. And then I'm giving it the Blackfire YAML file as the scenario file. So running it, it will then run all my tests. We should have 200. Okay, cool. Everything looks fine, and I can actually read the reports on Blackfire IO. So I basically triggered a build running only one profile here, and my build, which is by untitled, okay. Here I can see that my constraints are correctly met. I have now only 2 SQL queries and 25 entities. Fine. And I can also have access to the profile generated. Nice. Now I want this to be run on CircleCI for each commit I have, for each push on my GitHub account, I want this to run on my CI environment. And for this, CircleCI fits perfectly. So for this, well, of course, I have a project to set up with different Blackfire client credentials as environment variables. But here, I have my very basic CircleCI config, which has been generated by CircleCI when I first created the project. So I have only a build here running CircleCI PHP 7.4, and I'm having MariaDB as a service here in RAM just for tests. Everything here is, I didn't change anything except the database preparation because I need some fixtures to run the tests and a few PHP unit tests, which actually I'm gonna switch that to my performance tests. First, I need to add some orbs here. So remember the presentation from Aaron about orbs, a reusable configuration. So I'm gonna declare the one I need. We have 3 orbs. The first one, so Blackfire IO /PHP, which is all about installing the PHP extension, the probe as a PHP extension. The agent, which actually aggregates the data before sending them to Blackfire. It also anonymizes the data. So we need it here, agent at 1.2. And we also need the Blackfire Player because we're gonna run it locally on CircleCI. So Blackfire Player, Blackfire IO /player at 1.0. In order to be able to run my scenarios, I also need some web server here. So I'm going to use for that the Symphony web server, just like in my development environment. So I'm going to use another orb, which I wrote, because we don't have an official one yet, in order to have this web server. So I need a few more things after checkout. PDO MySQL is correctly installed already. So I need to set up Blackfire. So I'm calling Blackfire /setup from my Blackfire orb. This is a command that will install everything. I will also need here the Symphony command, and we're gonna run the web server. And then we're gonna run the Blackfire Player scenario. So I'm adding a step here for this, replacing the PHP unit, which was empty. And here we go. Now we have everything we need. First, before committing, we're gonna check if with the CircleCI command line tool, if our configuration file is fine. Validates CircleCI config. Yeah, that was right. Why is it always checking for updates?
There is a flag to stop checking for updates, but I forget the exact flag.
Yeah. All right. So config is fine. So I'm gonna add it and commit Blackfire Player on CircleCI, and let's push it. As soon as I push it, I'm gonna go to our GitHub repository now. So everything is now running. All right. So I'm gonna go to CircleCI to see how things are going. Hopefully everything should be fine now. Yeah, finger crossed. Okay, I'm connecting with Blackfire IO and Symphony Cloud Blackfire. All right, we can see that it's still running. So let's see what's happening. We only have one job for now. And we can see that, yeah, we have this container, the MariaDB container still running. And it's, okay, it installed everything from Blackfire. So the Debian package, the player, the probe, everything is there. And I forgot the Blackfire YAML file, of course. This is the demo effect, right? Okay. Let's force push. There you go. Okay, force pushing is bad. Don't do this at home. All right. So now we can go back to our CircleCI branch on our pipelines and see what's going on again. So actually, all these steps are pretty fast. Here I don't have any parallel runs. This should take some time anyway. Usually a job is taking like 1 to 2 minutes when doing these kind of things, because we're installing and compiling PDO MySQL, we're compiling other extensions. So this is perfectly normal that it takes some time. Like here for the probe, PHP probe is actually pre-compiled, but it also needs upcache, which is not natively part of the Docker CircleCI Docker container for PHP. Maybe we should propose to have upcache natively.
An alternative is you could build a Blackfire specific Docker image.
We could do that as well. Well, actually, we do have one for the agent, but it's a bit. It was a bit complicated to use it because of environment variables, which cannot be used as we cannot be passed directly to the Docker this Docker container without exposing them into the job. So maybe I should file an issue somewhere. And voila. So everything is fine. Our job is green. And if we go to our Blackfire here in our environment, so Blackfire workshop, we can see that yes, everything was fine and triggered by CircleCI. Good. So now that we checked locally that everything is fine, the good thing would be to to deploy to Symphony Cloud, which is our production platform, and trigger a build like after deploy build. So basically, what we want to do is first we test locally, fine, but never trust local, right? We deploy and then we check again if all our scenarios are still green in this in the new environment. So this is one of the power that CircleCI gives us. We're gonna do that. So let me first show you on the CircleCI here environment that in the project settings, which is kind of important, we have environment variables. I talked about environment variables. They are like secrets that you can add into your project, and all these environment variables will be exposed to all your jobs and in your workflow. This is important for credentials, and there will be there won't be exposed publicly in the job while they're running. And it's the same for SSH keys, for deploy keys. So this one is for GitHub, but if we want to deploy to Heroku or Symphony Cloud or whatever, we also need SSH keys that we added and that are compliant with our final destination. So here, I did all the things beforehand, generating SSH key for Symphony Cloud, and I also generated a token which allows any platform, so here our CircleCI environment, to instrument to use the Symphony CLI in our environment. So this is as far as security is concerned, this is very strict, and that this is actually good. Okay, so now that we have all this, I'm gonna add a few steps here. So we want first to deploy, so let's do that. Yeah. So Symphony deploy is part of my Symphony orb here. So this is a community one. It's not certified at all because I didn't personally partner with CircleCI, which is a bit different for Blackfire. The Blackfire orbs has been verified and certified by CircleCI. So I'm going to deploy here just 2 lines of code. I'm going to run a small sleep command in order to be sure that all the Symphony Cloud services have been restarted. And then what I'm going to do is to trigger a build, giving the endpoint of our final destination and the environment. Let me explain this. So this endpoint is provided by Symphony Cloud, so you just need to set it here. But about this environment, this is on the Blackfire environment in the builds here. Settings, you will find this environment ID here. So I need to fill it here. And I also set up a Blackfire build token. Which I need to reset. So I'm going to create a token here. Okay, so we're going to call it CircleCI webinar. And copy. close. And this, I will in my settings, environment variables, add it. So it will be Blackfire build token with the value. All right, so now we are set. I have generated my Blackfire token, which allows me to play with Blackfire API. I injected it as an environment variable in the CircleCI project settings, and I'm using this environment variable. I'm passing it to the Blackfire agent build trigger. So let me repeat the workflow. First, well, we install everything that is needed. We build everything. We run our scenarios first locally. Then we deploy to Symphony Cloud. And once the deploy is finished, we want to verify it. Okay, let's do that. So git add config, CircleCI config, and commit. Add deployments and push. All right, let's close this. And going back to the Symphony, to our project running, and finger crossed again, everything should be fine. All right, spinning up our environment. Okay. One thing we could that could improve this would be, like Aaron suggested, that we provide a dedicated PHP plus Blackfire environment, a Docker image that we might consider, or maybe we can also discuss with CircleCI so that we provide directly the probe.
In a more production-like environment, you may also see folks do the unit tests in a separate job to the Blackfire test. Stuff like that. And
that's something worth mentioning, indeed, because for the simplicity's sake, I run everything in one build job. But best practices would be to split this big job into several pieces, several different jobs, like Aaron showed in the first place. So one for building everything with dependency, and then we save everything. We then run PHP units, and then we run the Blackfire test locally, and then we deploy and run and trigger the scenario. Because here it's all stacked, and okay, we're now deploying. Okay, deploy always take a bit of time. So this should actually be more like, I thought I had it. So I might like a play run. If we want it to be more atomic oriented, we should have something like that, with a workflow having a build job, like I said, with the unit test requiring the first one, and so on. gives you more granularity. Right, now it's deployed to Symphony Cloud and it's triggering a build. Oh, it's failing. So let's see what's happening. So that's actually a good thing that we added this trigger. So what's going on? Oh, because I added a step maybe. And yes, I added a step that I missed in here. But we can see that actually our first scenario was perfect. And actually I had a second one here. The goal was to click on the first link in here on localhost. So the goal of my scenario was to click on this one on the after the home page, and then profiling again the second one. So let me show the missing parts. It's just a very quick scenario. Here it is. So what it did, it was visiting the homepage, still expecting a 200 status code. And then within our scenario, we can use CSS to traverse the HTML DOM. And that's what I'm doing here, to take the first link from the table, and then I click on this one. So having a new step, and that's what actually did that. So now I'm profiling the second page, and we can see that on this second page, we still have issues with the number of SQL queries and too many doctrine entities, because here we have 792 entities, which is way too much. So now we know what we need to fix, but I think that's that will be it for this one. And voila. Now the goal is not the goal, but the Mutu is okay. Profile, test, fix, and then repeat. So we profile again. Now we need to fix and repeat again. So thank you all for your attention, and well, sorry for the last demo effect, but I'm actually done here. So, well, of course, if you have any questions which have been maybe, okay. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask them just here, or to reach us out either via our support channel. I'm usually behind it, and so is Christoph, who is also here as a panelist. And same, I guess, for Aaron, for all the CircleCI questions.
Absolutely.
All right. So, well, I can now wish you a wonderful end of day. It's been 1 hour, a nice hour spending with you. So thank you all, and happy profiling.
Cool. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye-bye.